5% deposit to buy up to $1 million as a first home buyer, this one could be for you. Guys, in this video, we're going to talk about the first home buyer guarantee scheme. This is a pretty cool one, and honestly, as a mortgage broker, this is the most common first home buyer benefit or scheme that we actually do use in practice. Traditionally, as a home buyer, you would need to have a 20% deposit to be able to buy a home. That means to buy a home for $1 million, you need to have $200,000 in cash, plus the cash to cover the stamp duty and things on top, which could be something like $40,000. So to buy a home, you need $240,000. I've yet to meet a single first home buyer that's been able to do that themselves as a single applicant with just through savings. But with this first home buyer guarantee scheme, you could put in as little as a 5% deposit to get into the market. About probably 6 months ago, the property price limit for this scheme was at $700,000 in Metro Queensland. Now it's at $1 million. So that whole price bracket between $700,000 and $1 million has been freed up, and a lot more demand is showing up in this sort of price bracket at the moment. What is the catch? Essentially, there's not really much of a catch at all. The government does not take any ownership in your property. They're just guaranteeing up to 15% of your deposit, and they're putting in that guarantee that if something goes wrong, they're forking up to pay on your behalf. Now, who can apply for this scheme? You've got to be an Australian citizen, a permanent resident, or a New Zealand citizen on the 444 category visa. Now, the cool thing is you don't even have to be any of these three things if you're applying with someone who is. So if you're applying with someone who is a citizen, a permanent resident, or on that 444 visa, you are still eligible for this scheme. What exactly is a first home buyer? Because a lot of different first home buyer schemes are very loose with the definition of who is a first home buyer. Under this scheme, you're able to buy a property if you haven't bought a property in the last 10 years. So if you had a property and you've sold it more than 10 years ago, you're still eligible for this scheme. And as of October last year, in 2025, there's no income limit as well for this scheme. It used to be 125 grand for a single applicant, 200 grand for a joint applicant. Now there's no income limit. And plus there's no placement limits as well. So it used to be up to 30,000, but now as many people can apply for this scheme. Now, as a mortgage broker, I will say the benefit of this scheme comes into play most when you're buying with someone else. So when you're actually a joint applicant with someone, your borrowing capacity is much better, because most people don't realize. They go 5% deposit, $1 million, 50 grand. I've got that. I can use this scheme. What most people don't realize is you still have to have the borrowing capacity to borrow 95%, which could be up to $950,000. So usually applying with a partner, with a friend, with a sibling, with your parents can be a good idea to make sure your borrowing capacity is able to get to that mark that you're needing. Also, a lot of people don't realize it's not just 50 grand, so it's not just the 5% that you need. You do have to actually have the cash to cover the fees as well. The fees on $1 million purchase, that's your stamp duty, your lawyers, your building and pest, any removalists, all of those things, could be up to $40,000. So it's not just the 50 grand that you need to buy for $1 million, it's actually $90,000 of cash that you do need up front. And so to get to these little tips and tricks to make sure you're not hitting any sort of speed bumps, do come to MAD, find out more, speak to a broker, and we'll help you through your borrowing capacity and exactly how much cash you need to use this scheme.